This interview is sponsored by antiquesofclass.co.uk. Amanda, tell us a little bit about your background,
What musical background?
musical and anything else you want to share with us.
Okay. Gosh, well, that's quite a big subject, isn't it? My background, well, I was brought up on the south coast of England, in a sort of little sleepy seaside town, and spent most of my sort of younger days listening to classical music because that's generally what we had played in the house. And I learnt the piano was my first instrument I learnt, sort of classically trained, and I really, really loved that. I've always been into music. I've always sung and sort of had lyrics in my head and written crazy songs even when I was a child. So that was sort of my early musical start, really. And then as I went towards my teens, I got into the guitar and I taught myself the guitar. And I just loved the whole power of lead guitar, of distorted guitar, and just learned from anybody that I could, just all sorts of tricks and ways of playing, and tried to sort of copy things I heard, and just sort of built up my knowledge with that, really. And played in bands, did loads and loads of gigging, all over the south coast and sort of all around England, really. And just, yeah, really, really sort of music was sort of everything to me, really, throughout those years. I took a sort of a break from music around particularly when my child was born, because I was a single mum, so I had to obviously spend a lot of time with him, bringing him up. So I just did sort of just some occasional solo gigs at that time. So, there's been kind of sort of gaps and different reasons that I haven't sort of been doing music the whole time. And then sort of, yes, catching up to my more recent times, really. So that's kind of a bit of an extremely summarized musical history of where I've been.
Did you choose music or did music choose you?
That's a really interesting question. I think a bit of both. I think that in a sense, music has always captured me. It's always meant a lot to me and always resonated. So it's like a language for me. And I guess because I felt that and I was so tuned to it, I think that then from that came a desire to do more with it. I always, when I was a kid, I used to dream of playing music, of being in a band. It's just something that I've always followed. And I used to be very good at art, and it was also kind of it was sort of assumed I go to art college, and then I thought, that's not what I want to do. That's not, I might be good at it and I enjoy it, but it's not where my heart is. It was always music. So yeah, I think it's a bit of both, really.
Could you have seen yourself doing anything else, or was it music, music, music?
Well, I've done all sorts of bits and pieces throughout my life, because obviously, if you're not like signed up with a record company or whatever when you're younger, in those days it was kind of you're either in or you weren't. So I had to supplement what I was doing, just to make ends meet. So I've done all sorts of things. I've done joinery, counselling, working for an animal rescue charity, all sorts of things throughout my life. But music has always been there, and it's always been, that's my love, is music. And I've always had ideas going on in my head. I've always sort of wanted to record them or recorded them. And yeah, it's been there throughout. So yeah.
Let's talk about the album. It's called Innocence and Illusion.
Yeah.
Why the title?
The title sums up the album. The title I thought of after I'd done a few of the songs. So it was the songs first and the title kind of turned up in the middle, really. It encapsulates the childhood thread of the album, which so there's the sort of the innocence of the child and the illusions, but also the hard-edged adult realities of life, so the disillusions. So there's a sort of a counterpoint there, but I really do like the idea of the innocence and illusion, and the fact that the illusions of childhood are also carried through your adult life. You know, that those little pieces of childhood they stay with us. So there's a thread that runs through this album, even though some of it's quite hard-edged and rocky, of this childlike quality, which is what the title sums up for me.
You mentioned that you dreamed of, as a child, in your innocence, of being a musician, and yet here you are doing it in your adult life.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's fantastic. Sometimes it feels a little bit kind of unreal to have actually released this album, because, you know, I do think of that. I do often think of how that felt to me as a child. And it's really interesting. Some of the shows I've done, I've been sort of standing there on stage thinking, just imagine if my younger self was sat out there in the audience looking back and thinking, wow, that's what I want to do. So it's really nice to fulfill your childhood ambitions and actually be living your dream. That's something quite special, and certainly for me that's very special. Yeah.
Listening to the album, the two things struck my mind. One is that it's almost like it's theatrical somehow, the music. It's like there's a whole I want to use the word journey that's involved in listening to a track there, and the second is that it really feels quite deep to me.
Yeah, it is a journey, very much so. It's a journey. It's a sort of a bit of a life journey. It's not chronological as such. It's not sort of, well, once upon a time type of journey. There's not a specific story, but it's a journey through those sort of childhood kind of twists and turns, and through life's twists and turns. And I would say that it is a deep album. There's a lot of emotion in it. There's a lot of personal experience in it, feelings. It's the way I wrote it came very much from the heart. At the same time, I tried not to be too specific about my own experiences and my own feelings, in the sense that what I really want is for it to speak to the people who are listening to it. So it can be anybody's emotional experience. So what someone is receiving, they're receiving the feeling in that song, but then that becomes their own feeling of that song, if that makes sense. So yeah, I like to share those feelings, and not make it all about me, even though obviously I wrote it. So for me, it is. Yes, but it is very deep.